All right, so here we go. So excited. This is Andy. We have a great discussion today. And by discussion, I mean me just talking into the microphone. But hopefully you get something out of this. And this is something that has been on my mind for the last couple of years. And I will just tell you the story. All right, so the topic of today is how do you win in tennis? And I'm going to change it up a bit and rephrase it. How do you win while playing tennis? And I think that's the difference. There's certain things that we can control, and we can control attitude, we control our approach, we can control our serve, but some things are out of our control, right? So learn to control and be happy with what you can control and just letting the other stuff go. But before we start, tennis is sort of in a little détente period. We had the Next Gen finals. I thought I watched it a bit. I thought Fonseca was amazing. Really big fan. Learn Etienne. I really like his game. Just so consistent. And then Nishesh Bashav. I'm gonna butcher his name, but Nishesh. I got his first name right. Bashavaredi. I thought he was looking really good. I watched him on the podcast, the Changeover podcast, and really interested fellow. So hopefully 2025 is going to bring some good stuff for all of them. All right, Fonseca ended up winning that, but let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay. So I've had lots and lots of matches where where you had that match and you're like, you feel like hanging it up and picking up pickleball or something, right? So I've had lots of matches that way. I think early on in my career, I remember as a junior, I remember I hadn't made a final yet, and I think that the finalist got like a trophy, and I was up like 7-6, 5 left, and I ended up messing that match up, and the guy ended up winning like 6-7, like 7-6, and then 6-3 or something. And I dealt with it painfully. That hurt a lot. But I think you could just kind of chalk that up to, at least my reaction, could chalk it up to, like, obviously I was disappointed, but then like the sort of like overt like disappointments and like dwelling on that, like I chalked it up to me being a kid, being in high school and not knowing how to handle emotions. But then let's fast forward a bit. I think fast forward maybe 20 years from that. I think I was like my late 30s, and I think there's a point in the season where we were doing pretty well. This was one of the USTA seasons, but every match I was literally nervous and like shaken. I don't know whether you guys have had this before, but I'll just speak for myself. I was shaken before the matches, and during the match, like I wasn't like pre-match. I was always free flowing with my forehand, backhand. During the match, you become tight, and like things that were natural didn't seem natural, right? And everything got tighter and tighter, and then I found myself playing the match to win. Like I'm competitive, right? I really want to win, but the feeling that I got when I won was relief, in terms of, yes, relief that I've won. But when I lost, there was just a feeling of just disgust, like, how could I lose this match? Whether I feel like on paper that I'm better than the person, or whether I just didn't have my game, or like even if the person just played lights out, like I still was disappointed that I couldn't somehow find a way to sneak out of victory. And I was just like, okay, why do I feel this way, right? And especially since I'm paying to play tennis, like no one's paying me, I'm actually paying money to play tennis. And this is how, like, in my free time, which was very small at the time, this is how I'm going to spend it, by my moaning, and not really, there really wasn't any high per se in the play. It was just more of, I had my low when I lost, and then I had my relief, not even a high, relief when I won. And I think at that moment I was like, things have got to change. And I looked at I don't know whether you all have seen this app called Apeak Tennis. It was a really nice app. I used the free version because I was cheap, but used the free version, and I did it for like a week or 2 weeks. Did a couple sessions, and it just helped like ground you. So I had like some really how do I put this? Some pretty good like techniques to sort of detract your mind from the pressure that you're feeling. And like, I think the main idea, or some of the ideas were like, if you could focus on like, for example, if you could focus on you're grounding yourself to the floor in terms of your connection that your toes or something have with the floor, right? Then it'll take the pressure off of you in terms of you're not thinking about your nervousness on your forehand or your backhand, etc. And really taking that as a science, and like, oh yeah, there's another good one. Another gem was, I think, forgive me if I misquote this, but like, after each point, like, so take the time to mourn or to celebrate, right? Then takes a little bit more time to sort of recover and clear your mind, and then take the last bit of time to focus on the next point. So I thought that was, can't remember whether I heard that from there, but I thought that was really helpful, and that like, I think for me, right, playing the whole super, like, playing either extremes doesn't work. Like, where you're super calm and you literally don't say anything, right? And I find like when I do that, I'm a bit detached from the match. Or the other extreme where like you're overly emotional, like you're super invested, and like if you lose 1 point, or if you get the point, then it's sort of the ultimate like the ultimate showing, like if you get that point. So like finding that in between where you could still celebrate, you could still celebrate on one end, or you could non-destructively show your emotion, right? But then on the other end, you're still having the ability to calm yourself before the next points. I thought that was key, right? So yeah, so that helped. And I think recently, like, I don't know, I found like a nice little groove in terms of being able to live in the moments when I'm playing, and then just really enjoy the process. Nervousness still comes, obviously, but it's something where you learn to take as it's not going to be the end of the world if this doesn't happen. Like one scenario that I just recently remember is I was playing with my friend. We started a match like 2 weeks ago, and I mean, I was playing lights out the first set. I think I ended up winning 6-3 in that first set, and then he came back, won the second 6-4, and then we're tussling back and forth, both playing well in the third. And then it was 5-all when we had to leave, and so this was a USTA match, so we're playing no ads. And so what ended up happening is that he got sick for a little bit, and then I got sick, and then so it ended up being like 2 weeks later, we were resuming this match at 5-all in the third set with no ads, right? And we're playing in the cold, like indoor cold weather, and we were both super tight. And we got up, he was serving first, we got up to deuce on his serve, and then he hit like a rocket serve, like really good serve, and it was a very good serve. I didn't like. I think I barely got my racket on it, and it just went into the net. So that was already 6-5 pressure, right? Played for 2 minutes, and you already have a game. He's a game from the match. So I got out to the next game. Got out to a somewhat early lead. I think 30-love. Then had a sitter forehand. I dumped in the net because I didn't accelerate at all. Super tight. Then won the next point, luckily or something. So 45. And then from there, proceeded to lose the next two. So we're here at deuce. And then deuce or deciding points as well. So match points. So I was going for my first serve, playing against the lefty. So first serve, I was going to try and get it to his backhand on the ad side. So going for the slice serve down the tee. Missed. So second serve, right? So I know, let me know if this has happened to you before. But second serve, you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to double fault. I don't want to double fault. I don't want to double fault. And for me, like the transition has been... not necessarily thinking about that, right? Because I think the moments you focus on that double faulted aspect, the moments your form starts to break down. You may tighten up a bit. You may overswing because you're trying to put too much topspin, but like you could swing in a way where you're tight and you swing fast and the ball's going to sail. So rather than thinking about that fact that I don't want to double faults, I just focus on my breathing, focus on my toss, just focus on the moment, right? Executing what I knew how to execute, right? And if it didn't go the way that I wanted, if I ended up double faulting, then so be it. It happens. But at least I know that I was in my rhythm and I did my shot, right? So then from there, hit my second serve and kicked it out wide to his forehand. It was a pretty decent serve. He hit it cross court, I believe, cross court and short. Then I had a chance to approach mid-court ball, and I said, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I mean, I'm just going to hit a deep approach to his backhand. So I hit a pretty deep approach to his backhand. He sliced it back low to my feet. I popped it up slightly to his forehand. He came in and then hit it down the line for a winner. So game, set, match. So over the course of like 5 minutes, basically, we had 2 deuce points that could have gone either way, right? He played phenomenally on both and he ended up winning. So at that point, like, I think you could always transition and think of yourself like, oh no, you know, like, woe is me. I lost these points. I was going to say another word, but I'm bad at tennis, right? Tennis is awful, blah, 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 right? But, like, I think the growth that I've had and the growth that I said is, like, to really live in the moment. So we ended up playing another set, right, just for fun. I played my game. I won 6-3. And I think whether I won or lost that set, like, I was just happy with the ability to just let things go, right? It's not that deep. Just let it go, right? So that's something that I've been, so far with my coaching, I've been coaching this year and been coaching a lot on sort of the technical stuff, the positioning, strategy, and like the way I look at I look at coaching is like there are 3 different main aspects that we could address. Okay, so one is strategy, obviously, right? So your strategy on court, like where you position yourself, where you're gonna hit the ball, the sort of your sort of game plan. And I think strategy is very, very important. And like knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are. But what I've really sort of changed my game is not really focusing on myself. Like I've had a lot of practice where I certainly know what I do well, what I do poorly. And so that's sort of already ingrained in me. But really looking at my opponents and seeing, okay, what is the way that I can make him or her like most uncomfortable? Like whether it's net rushing or whether it's staying back and looping heavy balls to their forehand or backhand, or whether it's really just going hard to a corner, right? Living in the fact that I may make some errors. So looking at your opponents and really just thinking about what's the best way to make them comfortable. And something that I've always told, I've been telling the people I've coaching is like, you only really need to win 55% of the points. I know y'all have heard this before from, I think, the Federer's commencement speech. And if you look at Novak's, like his really on years, I think it was winning maybe 55, Serena as well. And if you're winning 60, I mean, that's like amazing, right? So really getting that focus, getting that mentality, and that translates so much to like how you approach the game, right? One key example is, I say, like when you're playing doubles, don't cover the alley, right? And I say selectively, like position yourself to where you're, when you need to, you could be closer to the alley, but like in general, cover the middle, right? Give them the alley, right? And like I remember one point playing some dubs and somebody hit the ball. So someone hit the ball, they passed me down the alley, and then there was like a huge, like, of course they did their celebration and everything. I think the natural thing at that moment is to sort of say, so as I was saying, I got passed down the line, and then naturally the other person was like celebrated, and I think before I would have like sort of been like, oh man, sorry about that, blah blah blah, sorry that I didn't cover the line. But then I think the mentality that changed in me is like, no, it happens, right? If they pass me again, they pass me again. I know that I've won a bunch of points by staying in the middle, and I'm gonna give that up, right? So it's just really changing that mentality, right? So we talk about strategy, and a lot of these things like sort of bleed into each other. So strategy, number one. Two is in terms of coaching, is sort of your stroke mechanics, your footwork, your stroke mechanics, footwork, and that's something that we kind of do. That's something I focus on when I'm on the court, and that's usually with privates, etc. Sometimes I do it in group lessons, but like I recall like trying to teach a slice serve, or not, slice serve was fine, but trying to teach a slice during a group lesson, like a backhand slice, and that didn't go so well. So I was like, okay, maybe I should just reserve the technique stuff for privates or semi-privates. But anyhow, with the lessons, like, so going over the proper technique, backhand, forehand, footwork. And one thing that's really transitioned, at least in the way I approach the game, is not overanalyzing technique, right? And just focus on the essentials, how the player gets there, right? How they get to, so for example, with your forehand or something, right? We want to be able to have a clean contact, so like the ball, like we're not flipping our racket or like doing all sorts of weird things with our racket while we're contacting the ball, right? And then we want to be able to swing low to high, and for us to get it over the net with enough margin, right? So whether they're doing a windshield wiper forehand or a next gen forehand or whatever the case may be, right? The focus is just on the essentials, which are the unit turn, right? The racket drop, step forward, and the swing to contact, right? Follow through, I don't care. Follow through is just whatever feels most natural to you, the most natural way to decelerate the racket, right? So that's one thing that I think has really freed me up, and then freed up some of my students, and really trying to get them to buy into the fact that you don't need to muscle the ball, right? The pace and everything comes from being loose. The spin comes from being loose. So that's sort of the mechanics aspect. And the last aspect, the one where I really want to focus, I know it's been a 20-minute intro to this, is the mental aspect of the game. And controlling, not even controlling, but letting go, I would say. So that's even a better word than control, because we're not controlling the courts. We're just letting go, and we're letting ourselves be satisfied with the fact that we're out here doing our best. We're working hard. We're going for the win, obviously, but just be content in all situations. Be content with whatever happens. And so that's one thing I've learned, to really live in the moment, right? And something to share is, I can walk you through the match, right? I can walk you through how I would approach a match, and oftentimes it starts with me frantically getting into the match from wherever, usually doing kid-related activities on a Saturday, right? So get into the match, right? Number one. And then during the, if possible, during the drive to the match, I try to either listen to some music or listen to some mindless tennis review videos about rackets and strings and stuff that wouldn't necessarily matter so much. So we try to get there and relax. And then I know that I'm not one of those players who like to necessarily keep to myself. So strike up a conversation with the opponent, find out how he's doing, and just an introduction, right? Just stay loose, right? And the warm up is so key. How do I put this? The main aspect is to warm me up for the match. We're not warming up our strokes. We're not warming up our serves. We're warming ourselves. So holistically warming yourself, right? So if that means moving a bit better, like be intentional about your movement, about crouching them down low, about doing your split step, then that's your warm up, right? If that means focusing on your return of serve versus your serve, focusing on making clean returns while the other person is serving, that's a great warm up. Also in the warm up is looking and seeing, okay, I remember we spoke about not necessarily focusing on yourself, but focusing on your opponent, what would give them trouble, right? So using your warm up to actually find out, probe, and see what your opponent's weaknesses are. And I do this all the time, right? I hit I hit some different spins. So I'll hit some slices to my opponent. I hit some flat balls. I hit high and loopy. I hit heavy and a heavy spin. To both sides, right? See what they struggle with the most, and then just take a note of that, right? Another thing that you can do is serves, right? Like some opponents they like returning your serve while like you're practicing your serve, right? At first, this used to annoy me so much. I'm like, I don't want to give you free practices on my serve. But then I'm like, well, like I've reached the point where my serve is I wouldn't say I won't say it's excellent or anything. It's pretty good, but I know that like from like being a teaching pro, like I'm able to sort of hit a decent serve off of no warm up whatsoever. So I take my few serves as warm up, but then if they want to return, then I strategically start mixing in some serves with some different locations, see how they react, and see where they're leaning, right? Another thing that you can do, not necessarily pre-match, but in-match, not necessarily advocating this, but like if this happens, it happens. My toss is like sometimes all over the place. So sometimes if I toss the ball and I know I'm going to catch it, right, then I take a look and see where my opponent moved. Like if they're leaning to one corner or the other corner, right? So catch it and then just serve it to the other side. So again, that's taking something that was inward focus, which is my awful toss, and turning it into outward, where we're looking at our opponent and trying to probe and see what their weaknesses are, right? So that's just my pre-match routine. So match routine, you have to look at the match as like, what are the rules? What are the parameters? If you're playing a regular best out of 3 sets, then that's different from playing like a timed match where like you have a certain amount of time and then you either have to play a tiebreak or count games to decide who wins. And that's also different from playing like a USTA like mixed doubles or something where it has like no ads and you're critical on like those deuce points or those like that like the 40-30 point in a normal match would seem relatively safe because you figure like even if you lose it, you're still serving, and like the other person has to win 2 points on your serve to win the game. But playing no ads 40-30, it's not that safe. You miss that point, right, and then you're down to basically deciding point, break point. So know the scoring, and that helps with the strategy, right? And I think for me, the one of the things that I focused on mentally is really focusing on the quality of each shot, right? And you dance with the person you brought to the party. So I'm not gonna change my game. I'm not gonna change my strokes. My janky forehand is still gonna be my janky forehand. My short backhand is still gonna be my short backhand, right? But what I do know is if I'm able to prep well, so if I'm able to move well, prepare my feet, get my feet set in the right position with enough spacing to the ball, right? I know my shots are going to be consistent. It may not look the prettiest, and that's the main thing I want to say. Like, just let go of the idea of how do your shots look, right? Focus more on your movement. Focus more on your positioning. Focus more on getting to the right spot and executing that one shot at a time, right? So once I'm able to do that, once I'm able to relax, I mean, it just takes the whole pressure off of you. Right? You're not thinking about like the eventual outcome of the match, or like the fact that you lost 4 games in a row, or whatever it may be, right? Or whatever is going on in your life. Prayerfully, like nothing bad or anything, but all you're thinking about is that next shot, that next opportunity, right? And that that movement into that shot, staying calm, staying grounded, loading up the back leg, transferring your weight to front foot, letting your arms come through to have that nice loose contact with the ball. So strong with the legs, loose with the arms, and then letting your body natural follow through and recover, and then start again. I mean, it's the way I look at it. The way that I've been teaching is it's like a dance, right? It's like a beautiful dance, and you just live in that moment. You live in that calm. You live in that peace, knowing that you are just taking things one step at a time, right? And so if you're able to do that on the routine points, then when the pressure points come, obviously you're gonna get some stress. Like, it's natural. Like, we all get stressed, right? Then you take that deep breath, then relax. Maybe make your margins a bit bigger, right? But still focus on the same thing. Still focus on moving your legs to the right position, and then just relaxing, letting the load that you've loaded on the back leg transfer to the front leg, letting your racket come through, and just finishing in how your body would naturally finish. And I mean, it sounds like a load of stuff here, but it's just the basics. And that's really, if you're able to do that, and just really detach yourself from the results, from the outcome. And I would say you're not really detached. You're detaching yourself from the outcome that you cannot control. And you're attaching yourself to the outcome that you can control, which is how you approach each shot, how you swing through it, and how you feel, and how you just naturally move in that dance, right? What happens whether your opponent comes and hits a winner, or you hit a winner, or they hit it into the net for an unforced error? Like, that's sort of out of your control once you've hit that ball, right? So I think that sort of mentality is where I've really gotten a lot of value, and that's something that we're 2025 we're gonna be doing all three aspects at Icon, and also like through my own personal coaching. So one, we'll continue to do the on-court sort of standard coaching that we see, right? Two, we're going to do strategy. And strategy, I think we could do this. We're going to do this both on court and then also like sort of post match strategy. So we're working on a way for players to be able to upload their match footage onto our server, and then we'll be able to provide analysis on the match. Hopefully cut down the dead time. We might start using Swing Vision at first, but transfer to other things later on. And then have a session where we walk through and we both analyze and see, like, okay, strategically, this is what we did well, right? And this is what we could do better, and this is what we did all right, And that's key, because I remember like after I coached for a match, and I think it was coaching doubles, right? Coaching some ladies doubles, and I remember one of the players after a match, one of my players, she asked me, like, did I come to the net enough? Did I come to the net enough? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it came to the net quite a bit. And then I asked her, I was like, so how did you feel while you're at the net? And she was like, I don't know. And so, yeah, so that's where we see that strategy, right? So how to come to net, like how to split step, where do you come to net? And then having that feeling of like, it's my net. This is my net. You guys are not going to take it from me, right? So that's one thing that we're going to work on, strategy. in person, and also and sort of online where the videos are shared as well. And so third, but not least, is the mental aspect. And I found that has been one of the more important parts of my game. I've hit a ton of forehands and backhands, serves over my 30 years of playing tennis. My form has gotten better over the years, but there's some things that just are not gonna change. Like I'm still gonna have a little bit of pancake on that serve, but I know that like if I'm relaxed, then I could get a high percentage of first serves, high percentage of second serves in, and with good pace and a good margin. So the real thing that has really changed and that's improved has been the mental aspect. So as we walk through that strategy, so for me that was a previous trigger, the sort of getting nervous and overthinking each point. There are other triggers out there, right? There are other things that people struggle with, that I may not struggle, but they may struggle with, and things that I struggle and with they may not struggle. So that's one thing that I'm going to incorporate in sort of the coaching, and this is going to be in person or online as well. So it's going to be pretty exciting in 2025. Lots of different changes, and we'll try and keep you all abreast of everything that's going on. But tennis has been good. Tennis has been great. I just love, like, I don't know. I've been loving the feeling of hitting backhands cross court. I don't know how to put this, but like using the whiteout to hit those cross court backhands, and also the RF 01 Pro has just been awesome. So that's been my joy the last sort of few days playing tennis. And so so hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you got something out of it, and please like and subscribe. We're going to try and get to that 1K mark. I know I've been saying that for a while, but let's try and get there pretty soon. All right. Play smart, see results. This is Andy from Tennis with Andy.